You want to keep going?
Sure.
What? All right. So today, it's like we said, we have a little bit of a lull period.
Lol.
So
It's
we're
a fun
kind
word
of
to say, lol.
catching up on stuff that we haven't
It's
watched.
like Lil Wayne, but lol.
Man, the ADHD gremlin is just taking over you today, right?
But Lil is like
Goblin or gremlin?
short
What do you
for
prefer?
little. What?
I always joke there's an ADHD gremlin inside me. He's operating things.
That's weird.
That's you right now.
Do you need some medication?
Why am I talking like this?
Yeah, why?
Because we are here to review.
We're here to review
a Scanner Darkly. Well, retro review. This movie came out in 2006.
1976.
Wow. The book came out in 77, 76, I think. Let me pull that up.
The movie came out in 1902.
You bet your ass it did.
Crazy special effects for its
July
time.
7th, 2006.
Also, Keanu like wasn't born until like the 50s, so that's crazy.
He was never born before today.
It was Keanu Reeves Sr.
Wow. So Scanner Darkly came out July 7th, 2006, written for the screen and directed by Richard Linklater.
The guy who did Dazed and Confused.
Starring Keanu Reeves, Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, Winona Ryder, and Rory Cochrane.
If I'm not mistaken, this was before Robert Downey Jr. took off as Iron Man.
Yeah, because Iron Man came out 2 years after that.
Yeah.
Iron Man and Tropic Thunder came out the same year.
Which
2
year?
years after this.
Yes,
This is also like right after Kiss
Oh,
Kiss
God.
Bang Bang.
Yeah.
as
Kiss,
well.
great movie.
Yeah.
Great fucking
Yeah.
underrated.
So, interesting movie. You've talked about it on this show before. That's actually what inspired it, because you talked about retro reviews, and then I went back in last week's episode, last week's episode.
Yeah, we had to.
And I went back and found it at the very end of the episode.
What was the other movie we were thinking of, though, in the parking lot? Because we were trying to listen to the show. Shit.
Oh, God. It was, see, now we're going to...
It was a cartoon, I think. Anyway. Let me, if I may, let me tell you how I came to this movie.
Oh, fucking... Whoa. You just hit the mic, dude.
Sorry, bro. Everybody
Sorry
okay?
about that, everybody.
Maybe we can take that out.
No. They need to hear what...
They
need to know what happened.
Fuck up you are, you fuck.
I gotta say, Channing Tatum's Gambit memes are killing me right now. Woo! You know how long I've been waiting for something like this, yeah? How about to make a name for myself? Can I get that out of my fucking head? You just remember what happened here today. Anyway, Scanner Darkly. Sorry. You took too long.
So
your relationship.
when this movie came out, it was really under marketed. Like, I don't even remember hearing about it coming out at all. I remember that I got it. I got the DVD through Netflix at the time.
When they delivered.
I lived in Denver, and I probably watched it like 2007 or 8, I think. But I remember reading. I think I had a subscription to Spin Magazine or Rolling Stone, one of those. But they reviewed it, and I read how many people were in it, and I'm like, holy crap, this sounds like something I would love. Yeah. And Philip K. Dick, is based Blade Runner's based off of his work, so whatever.
Yeah.
And I
Total Recall.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I can probably get into this movie. And so I got the DVD, and it fucking floored me. And I read some behind the scenes stuff that it took over 100,000 or however many man hours, animator hours to make those scramble suits. And while we were just watching it, because you were finishing up when I got over here, I was realizing that not only did they have to make all of the different full body things to scramble up, they also had to make facial expressions and different movements of
to
arms
match what was happening.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy fucking shit,
Also, I want to point out how this was shot. So this was shot digitally and then animated with rotoscope.
Yep.
Principal photography for this ended on May 17th, 2004. It lasted about 6 weeks.
Yep.
So that's the thing that gets me. So artistically and narratively, I understand the choice. But it is something where this had to be a clear labor of love for Richard Linklater. He must have really loved the book, because to go through that extra length to rotoscope it and animate it on top of things like where you've already filmed. You've already filmed a lot of this stuff in real, actual. There are some.
There's some moments that lend itself, like the dude with with all the eyes. Like that's nice that it's rotoscope, so you can just add that post.
But I understand the artistic decision behind it to give that appeal of that of our world but unnatural look to it, and
it gives you the feeling of being on drugs almost.
And it plays with your perception of reality.
Yes,
that's the whole point of the movie. And so and I understand the artistic choice of it, but that's what I mean. It just shows you like it has to be a very real love of what this story was and what they can interpret on screen.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because
I think the cast is great too.
Maybe it's because we talked about this. The reason why it's so personal to me is that I've lost a lot of friends, and to drugs and alcohol. They're gone.
Yeah.
They're gone from my life, and I'll never get them back. And that's where I get that personal connection to this movie.
Yeah.
But I bought the book, I read it, and there's that final coda at the end, that final message that just always gets me every time, because it just makes me realize the music doesn't help, you fuckers. But it's also a bummer of a fucking ending.
Yeah.
We'll get there. It's one of my top 5 movies of all time. Again, because it has such a bummer of an ending, like it's once maybe a year, if that, because you really have to be in the mood for it, and you have to be ready for that ending. I have to be ready for that ending, because I know I'm going to have to need about 10, 15 minutes afterwards to compose myself and redo my makeup.
Yeah. Well, and that's what that ending is something that sticks with you, just because of the context of this story and understanding that this story is Philip K. Dick is quoting everything that is in that I saw, because he was heavy into the drug scene, especially the psychedelic drug scene. Like he's talked about a lot in his books about psychedelic drugs and things like that. So he was frequently in that
the way that
acid stage.
The way that I
70s.
read it was that his wife left him, and then he started welcoming street people and drug users into his home.
That's what he phrased it as. Yeah,
and that's when he became embroiled in it, because he was around it all the time. Like he didn't just join up or whatever. But yeah, all the people that he talks about at the end of the movie, at the end of the book, are real people that he knows. I mean, I don't know, it is a tragedy when you see, people in the throes of drug and alcohol abuse, drug and or alcohol abuse, and they're not mutually exclusive. But it's sad when you lose somebody, because, I lost my job on Monday, and there's a part of me, as, a recovering alcoholic, that has, there's a small part of me that's been like, hey, maybe we should take up drinking again. And why? Like, honestly, that's my first question, is why? What exactly would that do for, it never numbed me enough when I wanted it to, when I was heavily into it. And I know it wouldn't help me now. Like, the problems would still be there tomorrow, and I would feel like shit besides. So, and then I'd be like, $20, out for the beer and the smokes, whatever. So, no. I'm not going to, but alcohol, addiction is not easy to deal with.
Yeah, and it's something,
it's always kind of going to be there with you.
That's something that a lot of recovering addicts talk about. It's just like, that's a struggle you're going to have the rest of your life. That itch will be there. But how this is tied more to Dick personally. This is just some stuff I was reading about. His wife left him in 1960 or 1970.
It's like his fourth
like
wife.
you said, he said he got mixed up
way.
with street people.
Yeah,
just to have somebody to fill his house.
Yes, he still had. I think he won the house in the divorce, and that was it.
So I wanted to tap into the drug use of this time. So during this period, he ceased to write completely and became fully dependent on amphetamines, which he had been intermittently for years.
He was a pill popper.
He quoted saying, "I did take amphetamines for years in order to be able to, I was able to produce 68 final pages of copy a day," Dick said. So the character of Donna was inspired by an older teenager who became associated with Dick sometime in 1970. Though they never became lovers, the woman was his principal companion until early 1972 when Dick left for Canada to deliver a speech to Vancouver Science Fiction Convention. So, again, just kind of tying that to his real life.
Yeah.
But so after that, so like a lot of this has to deal with stuff with like New Path of like his idea of it comes from around that time. Because after he went to that speech, that's when he was in the Calais.
Yeah, he went to a rehab place
Which is a rehab thing, which was the inspiration for New Path. Yeah.
And you know the thing about Dick is, I love saying it.
The thing about Dick.
I just love saying the thing about Dick. No, but he all of his books, all of his stories, from the time he started writing until he died, are all playing with perception, playing with reality, what is real and what is not. And when you get right down to it, I mean, how many times have you woke up from a dream and you still have that vibrancy, that whatever of the dream, even though you're awake, you still remember it almost as vividly as if it were reality, right? And how many times in your dream do you think, oh my God, like I have a recurring dream about crashing my car. Yeah. And every time I know that it's about to happen, but I can't do anything about it because I'm either doing something, whatever. It's just kind of one of those things, but it's vivid.
Well, your sleep paralysis.
Whatever. It's vivid.
That could be a part
No, I'm saying like, you know what I mean? It's oh shit, I can't believe I'm doing this again. It's probably, I'm sure that a psychiatrist could go crazy on that. But the point is that there are moments in our waking life that feels dreamy, feels like it's not real. There are moments in our dream life when it feels like reality. And when you take drugs, as I did, and drink heavily, whatever, that plays with your perception. And so naturally you start thinking about, when I was drinking heavily, I had trouble remembering conversations that I had between conversations that I imagined a lot. So I would like think that I had a conversation with somebody about something and resolved an issue, and the next time I saw them, they were still dicks, and I was like, I don't understand. And it was because I imagined you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had trouble with that a lot, and I still do sometimes. But the point is that our brains are incredible mechanisms that we don't know shit about, like jack shit about. We know kind of like one of the things in the movie is right and left hemispheres are competing, and what they say is like your right brain is damaged, so the left brain's trying to make up for it.
Yeah,
which makes sense for like when he sees Donna instead of what's her name.
Let's
get into the movie.
Yeah, well,
but that's where the movie is based in, is reality, perception.
Yeah. So, like, the whole thing with this movie, I wanted to talk about, but before we get to that, it's just like because did Linklater do Slacker?
I think so.
I want to say he did Slacker. But what I think is interesting about this story, and you think about it in the broader scheme of, like, Philip K. Dick novels, and you think what he was able to inspire with Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep into Blade Runner and Total Recall and things like that, where there's a lot of crazy action and crazy cool shit in those, where this is a lot more toned down, and this is a lot more, and again, because it is written from such a personal place, a much more intimate story. And
there's sci-fi elements, but
sci-fi,
it's generally
there's
grounded.
still scramble suits and shit like that, and there's drug hallucinations and things, but for the most part, it is one of the more grounded stories from Philip K. Dick, just based on what I've been exposed to.
Yeah, and I've read the book, and you're right. It's very
and I was just looking at it, and the movie is very close to the book. And I think that like you were talking about how you felt like this is Keanu Reeves' most human performance, and I could see that because
best.
Honestly, because by the end of this movie, it's fucking tragic. By the end of this movie, I was like, son of a bitch. I was just like, wow. And you know what? I loved it for that because it stays true to its early fucking sci-fi roots, man. If you go back and read like fucking Bradbury and you read Philip K. Dick and you read Asimov, you read there's always
Clark.
There's always a moral dilemma, and at the end, the person that is wrong is punished.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. But then you realize, wait a minute, even the person that wasn't wrong still gets punished. Or no, it's excuse me, I said that wrong. It's in the inverse. Whereas you think the good person always wins, the person in this case it isn't.
Yeah.
The good person is punished because, like, the whole point of the story is he was a part of this that he was not willing to be a part of.
Well, and one of the things that always strikes me about the moment when she drops him off, and you know the guy comes out, the two technicians, the two orderlies, and they're kind of talking shit. You know, they're like, "Oh, another loser, another burnout." You know, and you think about like, well, that's no way to treat an addict. But then then you start putting yourself into the place of those guys who do this all day, every day, maybe. And after a while, you're like, I'm sick. You know, it's after a while they themselves have to brace themselves against that and dissociate themselves. And they have become that, whether or not they wanted to, because it's easier than feeling compassion or empathy for these people who have largely fucked up their own lives.
But here's the thing.
You know, how do you say that?
No,
right?
but see, that's the thing that's interesting.
But that's another part of it.
And that's what I think is so interesting about this. They make so you spend majority of the time you're spending with Bob and Barris and
I can't remember Woody Harrelson's name.
Woody Harrelson's character. Freckle. No, Freckle's the burnout with the. Freckle's the one where the movie starts.
That's Freck.
Freck starts with the movie with the bugs.
Yeah.
So I want to say this too. Can I just get back to the very beginning of this movie? I have not seen this movie. I know of the content of the movie, so I know that it's about drugs, and I know it's something with drugs, and I knew it was about like psychedelics and shit. And I knew the backstory. But it starts in a scene where I wasn't, like you said, it was like, it kind of was like, did you think you were like, you thought I was going to be freaked out by it or think it was weird or something? Right. And I was just laughing because I'm like, oh, it's just him having, the whole time, I'm just like, oh, he's just having a bad trip. Like, you know what I mean? And even though it's the way that it's animated, the bugs are supposed to be real, but I just thought that was so funny because I'm like,
Luckman. Ernie Luckman,
okay.
Yeah.
The whole scene where he's shaking off the bugs and then goes in the shower, and then it's just a funny moment where he stops and then shakes and then all fucking come out again, and he sprays himself and then it's popping out of the
with the fucking
and then he calls Robert Downey Jr. and he's just calm about it, and he just goes, just pick him up, put him in a jar, come over, don't worry about it. And then as he's, oh my god, this scene where he's driving and he hallucinates getting pulled over and some dude just blowing his fucking brains out, it's so funny. And that's what I mean. This movie has.
We've all imagined
the tone,
that.
Like, it has the Linklater flair of so much humor and fun and mundaneness, and then it takes that crazy turn. Like, it's always in there. It's always underlying throughout the movie. But when it finally hits, I'm assuming just like the book, you're like, fuck. Because even on all that stuff with the burnout stuff and it's all fun and games, you still feel like Bob needs an out. Bob needs to get out because Bob is becoming addicted and Bob is losing reality. And
right, you know almost from the beginning, after that whole set piece with Freck and his dog and the aphids,
yeah.
But you know pretty much from the get-go that Bob Archer is a double agent. But you also get the sense almost immediately that
because
the guy who's the cop, when you
first see him, he's in the scramble suit,
right?
Too.
But you also get the sense almost from the get-go that the guy who's the cop and the guy who's Bob Archer are not aware of each other, or rather, he has compartmentalized himself to the point where when he's in the scramble suit, he is Fred, the cop, and when he's not, he's Bob Archer, the undercover drug guy or whatever. That's almost from the get-go.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah. So right away you're like, what's going on with this guy? Because he doesn't
jump around a little bit.
Yeah. And even later on in the movie, he says,
so that's what I mean. So let me ask you this: is that because? So is he? Is it because of his exposure to the scramble suit and the substance D that it was fucking with his perception of reality?
I think by the point we see him, he's already fucked by substance D.
And the scramble suit.
No, the scramble suit. I'm saying that
he's already been in it pretty too long. At this point.
the scramble suit doesn't have anything. I'm saying like when he puts that on.
But did he? But my question is, did he? And I'm sure this is never answered. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
I want to get to this point.
Yeah.
Did he think? Was he having a clash with him being Fred and Bob, where he imagined having his family, or did he actually leave his family?
I think Bob Archer really had a family. But then the question I have is at the end when Hank says, no, you're not supposed to. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. Because he hallucinates that at one point, or he remembers it at one point, that his house.
Because there's a moment after Robert Downey Jr. shoots the fucking silencer off. He wakes up in a fervor because he heard the gun. And then he stops and he takes some substance D.
Yeah.
And then he starts walking and he goes then he starts a narration of I remember my family but they were
right
and I wanted them gone and now they were gone. Like
he
hits the back of his fucking head.
Right.
This is what trips me up. So he hits the back of his head and he goes motherfucker and he freaks out and that's when he like snaps and my implication is when they creepily walk in and like Daddy's everything okay? That's him snapping his own brain, his fucking fight, right, with the left and right side of his brain. Mm-hmm. That's what's going on. Mm-hmm. And he is realizing this is a dream. This is fake. This isn't real. So I don't think he ever had a family.
I think
it's all manufactured in his head.
I think one thing
that's what I love about the story. You're not supposed to know.
After having seen it multiple times, I think one thing you can take almost immediately. Yeah, you're right. But that's the best part about this movie is that having seen it once, every subsequent viewing, you know from the get-go that Bob Archer thinks he's Bob Archer, but when he's, in you can almost see it in the body language when he takes the suit off and has the street clothes on.
Yeah.
He thinks that he's two different people.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
So Bob Archer, when he's Bob Archer, doesn't feel like morally wrong about what he's doing because he's a criminal.
Yeah.
But when he's in the suit, he doesn't think about popping D because
he does.
That's not a real human being.
Yeah.
He
does once while he's in the suit. Though.
Right. He compartmentalizes himself to the point where he thinks he's two different people so that he can allow himself to do what he needs to do in each guise.
Because it's for the greater good.
Which the big twist being that Donna was his fucking superior the whole time.
Yeah.
Which totally blew my fucking mind the first time I saw it. I was like, holy shit.
Which makes sense is why she didn't do the D and why she never fucked him.
You almost start to see the twist coming during that last... Like I was telling you, it's a close-up of the scramble suit over and over again.
Yeah.
And there's...
You can see like a skull
at
one point.
And there's like there's stuff thrown in like aliens and like people with like bloodshot eyes, like it's not normal.
Yeah.
And that is meant to kind of give you that sense of discomfort, like he's in the chair, trying to get out of the chair.
Yeah.
If you've ever withdrawn from anything, oh boy, it's a lot like that. And
I've never
but I just love it.
I've never taken any substance that I've been addicted to where that I've had that, but I've had moments when I've been high where I have had that unease where I'm like, I don't like this situation. Like I've been paranoid on drugs before. I think anybody that's done any drugs before has had that paranoid thing.
Yeah.
So I know, like I identify with that moment a lot too. Of like I've been there. Where like you're like, oh man.
And the bad trip that Freck has.
I'm talking about like I'm talking
relatable,
about like smoking weed, have a fucking pop can, and your parents. You see your parents, and you're like, oh fuck,
If I stayed very still, they won't see me.
Well, I'm just hoping he doesn't look at my fucking eyes. I'm just like, you know what I mean?
The first time you ever talk to your parents when you're high, you're just like,
And
you're trying so hard to be
think
normal.
About every fucking word you're about to say. You're like, you better be as calculated as ever in any response.
You think that you're like, hey, Mom, what's happening? But you actually sound like this. Hey, Mom, what's happening?
Yeah, your volume is fucked. You don't realize it? Oh, my God.
You're trying so hard to be normal that
I've
you're
had that.
clearly not. I'm just going to go take a nap.
I always joke to my friends that if ever I was like,
boy, I'm tired.
if I would ever hang out with my friends and get high and then come home and like it would like,
wait till they're
and
in
everybody.
bed.
Well, no, if it was like during the day or something, and people are in the house, I was like, just fucking get to the fridge.
Yes.
Here's what I was like: get to the fucking fridge, see if there's some milk, get yourself a bowl of cereal, and get the fuck out of there, man. Is what I would say, and you better believe every time I just be like. And just fucking go to my room, eat this bowl of
Nobody's
cereal.
gonna catch me. Nobody's gonna catch
That
me.
was like my comfort. That was like my center.
But yeah, I've come down off coke, which is just about. That's just being really depressed and wanting more coke. That's not like hallucinogenic. I have detoxed off of alcohol. Sorry,
There's something going
stop
on.
touching it.
Yeah.
I have detoxed off of alcohol more than a few times, but I don't think I ever had like. You ever heard that movie Harvey with what's his name? Jimmy. It's a Wonderful Life. Well,
Jimmy Stewart.
Yes,
Jimmy
Stewart.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But there's a movie.
I don't know, Tyler.
I was Mr. Smith goes to Washington too.
See, my Jimmy Stewart
but he
gets
was
too
in a
close
movie-
to Don Knotts.
Right. He was in a movie called Harvey. And Harvey's about a guy who drinks too much and he has an imaginary huge bunny. And you've like heard like stories about pink elephants and stuff. In fact, in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, there's a beer company called Pink Elephant Brewing, which fantastic. Way to go, guys. And that's centered around people who have had problems with detoxing from alcohol. They see what there's a common myth of the pink elephant or something like that.
That was the
beckoning you to-
symbolism of the elephant thing, where they do the sensory thing with its hands. Was that supposed to be a nod at that?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. But another movie that is really great to see, which is really good about alcoholism, is The Days of Wine and Roses. It's from the 50s or 60s, starring Jack Lemmon. And it is the closest thing I've ever seen to what it's like being in a toxic relationship and one dependent on not only each other, but on the substance.
I want to talk about a couple things. One, I think Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic as Barris.
So
I think
good.
the cast in general is
I could
really
be
good.
murdered.
Yeah. Luckman, Woody Harrelson's great. Well, the whole scene when the car breaks down.
Yeah. So fucking
I love
crazy.
it because this is a moment of the story where there is a moment of hesitation, what you're talking about, where the Bob side of this is starting to intersect with the Fred part of it, because he's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then my favorite thing about it is like, I have been in that I've not been in a situation like this, but I've been in a situation where someone was like, do you ever think maybe it's because we do this? And then some of your other friends goes, no, man, don't blame this. Even though that is the problem, whatever it may be, booze or drugs, whatever it is. And it's like, it made me laugh. That's what I mean. It's like, it's such a, the movie does a really good job with its twist and kind of coaxing you into like, oh, this is just another burnt out drug story.
Yes.
If you hadn't read the books or seen it before, like me. And then the twist happens and I'm just like, shit. And I'm like, oh, okay. And again, I love the fact that it sticks to the sci-fi roots of a tragic ending. And as shitty as it is. And you know what? When I was watching it, when I was like, damn, it broke me is when they kept saying things to him.
Yeah.
And he was just responding with no emotion, no response. Bob is dead. And this is Bruce.
Yep.
And this is it.
Yeah.
And it's like, fucking shit. And then he says, maybe he saves the flower because he'll see them on Thanksgiving.
The idea is that hopefully he does bring that back and then they're able to blow it all open. But when I got out of high school, I think you probably did too. We got off a week before everybody else, the seniors. And I already had my own apartment because my buddies and I got an apartment rental and we were all 18. So 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks that we were there in high school, all the parties were at our apartment. And we somehow collected all that summer and into a little bit into the next year, we somehow collected all these random fucking people who would just hang out for like days at a time and then disappear. Just random people like who came over for a party and just chill out. Or they came over to bring some acid and they're like, oh, I'm just going to chill for a little, whatever. Or they become the roommate somehow because one moves out. Your original roommate moves out.
Oh, yeah.
And that's exactly
it's just like
how I fucking lived.
Yeah.
So this also touched me in that respect.
Yeah.
That when they're driving back in the tow truck and he's talking about the shit that he did to his house, I used to remember that shit all the time. Like, what did you do to my place while I was gone? Like, what were you doing in my room and shit?
Yeah.
Like some fucking...
You put a sign on the door that the door's unlocked?
Some fucking skid fucking sleeping on my fucking couch going into my fucking room and shit. Like, get the fuck out, dude.
Yeah.
And you had to deal with it sometimes because they got really good drugs or they could buy you beer or something.
Yeah.
But I absolutely resonated with all those aspects of it when they're doing the fucking silencer shit outside.
Oh, dude, that or the fucking bike scene made me laugh.
You just want
when he thought he got gypped on the fucking bike
because they start doing the math and shit.
That's a funny scene. And then he's like, "No, we're gonna take it out on the street, get other people's perspective, and then we'll go from there."
Yeah.
It's such a stupid fucking thing that you would do with your friends. Like, it's a
when they get
believable scene.
When they go from play fighting into like serious fighting outside, and then Freck shows up, and then they just turn on him.
Yeah.
That is totally like being with your friends and shit. You don't know if your friends are like being really like honest, but it's like, oh my god, it's escalated somehow. Then
So what did you think about his like what he did to Luckman when he like poisoned him?
Oh, when he choked?
Yeah.
When he was choking?
Yeah.
I remember watching it and just being like, what the fuck is going on?
You makes you think that he poisoned. You makes you think he did
I knew he was choking.
Yeah.
Just regular choking, but it was clear that Barris is not going to help him, which is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and then you see, him being in the suit being like, Jesus, Barris.
I think it just proved that Barris is just a sociopath or what is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just proved that. If there is a villain in this story, it's him. If there is.
He kept
between him or
kept
New Path.
enabling Freck's addiction. He kept...
Oh, yeah, every interaction he has with Freck is like he's toying with him. Yeah. Every interaction.
Yeah.
Everyone.
So he says, collect the bugs, bring them over here, and it'll be fine. And then when he's over there, he's like, yeah,
Did you have a friend of like two? Did you have a group of like two friends that you hung out with, like two guy friends, and there's three of you, and one's like the total dick and kind of the leader, and then there's the one guy like Bob who's like just the chill dude, and then there's a guy like Luckman who's like just crazy.
Yeah,
I had friends like that too, man, and it was like, there's just times when it's just exhausting. You're like, why are we driving all night to get to Des Moines?
Now that I know,
stupid fucking show.
Now I know the twist. It makes so much more sense why Donna was always so close to Bob the whole time.
Yeah,
makes so much more sense.
But yeah, obviously, to me, I mean, I think as humans, as social creatures, whatever, there's always the idea that if it's a woman character and a man character. Who are single and both,
it's just
straight.
Storytelling. You're like, you're about to be like, they're gonna hook up,
but then they don't, and then you're like, okay, it's either for the story or we just forget that that's very possible. It's absolutely possible for man and woman to be friends without having sex. But
possible.
In this movie, it's kind of inferred that there's a reason why Donna, and the inference until it's revealed why. Is that she doesn't like to be touched.
Yeah.
But then it's revealed that it's because she was his superior.
Yeah. Yeah.
She didn't want to have to make him salute in the morning.
Conflict. I mean, it's nice.
I'm saluting with some part of my body.
It's nice to see
Donna.
that she has some remorse at the end when she's like, Jesus, that's even we're pretty cold or whatever. I'm like, yeah, but it still doesn't make up for the fact that you fucking did this to this guy. Like, you still did it. And
it's also a commentary on the war on drugs.
It is absolutely that's the whole.
What have we cost? What cost? And what have we really done?
And I understand the message of it, and it still rings true. It's like what it says at the end. Like, these people were punished for not what they did. it's like look around at this fucking planet we live on, and don't tell me that you wouldn't get fucked up, whether it be booze or weed or whatever to get you fucked up. Like,
it gets you through the fucking day.
I've always said, and you know what I've always said, and you know what we should be doing when we talk to addicts and we talk about why they did the substance abuse? Maybe ask the situation they were in that led to that. Maybe think about that and stop accusing. His whole thing is like, stop calling it a disease. It is a choice, but it's but his thing is like, it's the same as a choice of walking in front of a moving car.
Right.
Like, it is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But again, think of the circumstance. What led to that?
There's a lot of school of thought in scientific circles right now that the whole alcoholic for life, all that stuff, addict for life. There's a lot of thinking that's not necessarily true. That that every addiction is a result of some childhood trauma that is unaddressed, and I do believe in that to a point, because I don't have cravings anymore. Like, again, when my brain was like, hey, maybe you should start drinking again, the little part of my brain, this is how far away I am, the little part of my brain that thought that was like, are you serious? Why?
Right.
Like, it's just not, it just doesn't, it's not an option. I don't have so when you think about how I was and how I am now, I think there's very definite evidence that maybe not everybody is an addict for life. Maybe we got to stop lumping everybody into one pool and stuff, and maybe start separating them out that way. But definitely, if we're talking some sort of childhood trauma, we have to use compassion.
Yeah.
Of some sort when we're dealing with addicts of all sorts.
Well, and I had someone
that even means shopping addicts, folks.
I had someone very close to me that had to go to rehab and deal with that, and I love him like a brother, and I told him the same thing. I was like, I'm not here to judge you for what happened. I'm here to tell you that, I'm glad you decided to get help and get this taken care of. And so many people are so fucking judgmental about it. And look, man, again, think of the context of the situation. And again, like you just said, everybody has their own autonomy. Everybody makes choices. Yes. It is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Yeah. And I myself am saying that to myself. I know there's some things that I don't deal with and I should deal with, but and it's just, and that's what I love about this story of you can tell it came from him, loving having friends, and like you were talking about losing. I haven't had that happen to me, fortunately, but I understand, because I have had friends that have battled addiction, so I understand the sentiment of the story behind it, and it is sad. Yeah. Because you think about the crack epidemic, and you think about the fucking opioids and the fentanyl and all this stuff. Like, it's never the people that get addicted to it's fault, man. And I know they made that choice, but at the end of the day, when you look at the broader scheme of things, a lot of these
you just have to take it once.
Let's be mad at the fucking pharmaceutical companies that make these intentionally addictive drugs. Yeah. Let's be mad at them for getting us hooked on that shit.
I've been hooked on nicotine for fucking 30 years.
Yeah.
Jesus, 30 years. How the fuck am I still breathing?
It's just it's an interesting. That's what makes it such a good story and interesting story. Is it makes you kind of question and think about this stuff in a broader way.
What are we really trying to do? Yeah, what are we really trying to do to solve this crisis?
There is a choice to be made, and there is also context to choices. But I just feel like too much of it is this angle. Rehabilitation should be about reaching out to someone and telling them there's something wrong and this is going to kill you, and I want to help you.
No, but you have to allow that. You have to allow the addict to reach out for help. That's the problem.
They have to reach. Yes, you're right. They have to admit it.
They never do.
Yes, they have to.
That's the issue, is that the addiction will make you think that you don't.
You can't help somebody that doesn't want to help themselves. You're right.
It's a tragic thing.
Yeah.
But that's why we offer. That's why we hopefully. I don't know why I keep.
Well, I just feel
that's
like
why we.
There is a little bit of an obligation to reach out. I feel like at some point and just be like, look, I don't know.
The best thing you can do as an addict in recovery and whatnot, and an alcoholic. My best advice to you, if you're listening to this and you think you have a friend who has a problem, is to very politely ask them if everything is okay and if they need anything or if they need to talk. Other than that, any sort of like suggestion that they have some sort of problem with whatever.
Right,
I mean,
you're right.
Listen, now if they kill somebody with like in a car accident, that's different. If you're just talking about somebody who drinks way more than they should, obviously you want to help them. But, I think the best thing you can do is leave it open-ended to them. And just try not to be judgmental. And if you say like, hey, I feel like you drink too much. Yeah, maybe after they, get into their second DUI, that might be a good idea.
Right. I mean, I think that you're right. I think
or hire somebody to do an intervention, so it's done with professionalism.
Yes, you have to do it with a certain tact, correct.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's
for sure.
But I definitely love the idea that your first thought is to help your friends, and that to me says a lot because some people just ignore it. And all you need to do is, the fact that you're wanting to say to your friends, "Hey, are you okay?" That's all it takes sometimes is maybe they've never been asked that.
And then if it gets worse, it's be like, man, this is like after that second DUI, I'd be like, I think you should probably stop.
But sometimes it's as easy as just, hey, are you doing okay?
Yeah.
You know what? No, man, I've been drinking a lot. Like, holy shit, cool. I can help you. If you need help, whatever. But I think it's such a big part of our world that we don't talk about. It's really stupid. Anyway.
Yeah.
Love you, man.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
Well, my instinct to that is always that I think there should be more help than hurt,
Yes.
and because
judgments
a lot of the
need
times,
not apply.
a lot
to
of
this
the
shit.
times, the people that are addicted to drugs or they're usually running from something worse.
Yeah.
Like you said, it usually always leads to some sort of trauma that goes unaddressed, and which again, all the more reason to go to therapy. Now, I'm not saying.
You can afford it.
No, we both are.
available
We are
in
both
your
people that believe if it's legal and you can, it's like if you want to eat a gummy or smoke a vape, where it's fine,
Whoa.
go for it. If you can if you can have a few beers and that's it, and you don't get
My
you're not addicted to it, that's
I-
fine.
I-
Everything is fine in moderation.
Yeah,
is what we're trying to say.
My thing is like when it comes to marijuana, it's like okay, look, I've never heard of anybody overdosing on it because the worst thing you can do is like eat a whole bag of Cheetos to yourself. And pass out. Like that's you can't die from it. Maybe
Yeah.
lung cancer, like way down the
You
know what I
heroin,
mean?
you don't fucking know what you're getting, and
Exactly.
You can,
Yeah. So I mean, that's why. But alcohol. I mean, yes, there's the argument to be made that if you're behind the wheel, and you're high on marijuana, that you were making whatever. But I would much rather have a road full of high drivers than a road full of normal drivers with like two drunk drivers.
The worst.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The worst traffic jam ever.
Oh my god. How come nobody's going? Because we fucking forgot how, bro. I thought we were having a Dead concert.
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.
So that's been our review
that's the
of
sheriff.
Scared or Darkly. Very serious ending.
Can I suggest, because that just reminded me, if you are just hanging out bored as fuck, go to YouTube and look up the Dave Letterman top 10 lists of top 10 things celebrities wish they could say to Dave, because they all come out and say them, and like there's a couple surprises. Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.